Experience holiday cheer at Tanger Outlets with savings up to 70% off your favorite brands. From fragrances to accessories and the latest styles, discover the best gifts for everyone on your list. Save big at Nike Factory Store, Michael Kors, Under Armour, Coach, Polo Ralph Lauren, Kate Spade New York, and so many more. Unwrap the best at Tanger Outlets. Hundreds of brands, endless gifting options. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.
And good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Northland Sports Page. It's Brian Prudhomme. It's Dave Cook. It is Saturday. It looks like Saturday Night Fever in here, even though it's Saturday morning, because Dave and I, yes, we do dance a little bit to this song.
Yep.
It's a way to get you going, we hope. We're with you till noon. Should be fun. Hi, Dave.
It's a little interpretive dance to Good Times Roll. I think that's a good thing.
My family, being the dance family that they are, would call it lyrical. I would call it hysterical, but we did what we could.
Yeah, we need like those sticks with the flags on them that they, when you see the dancers out in the, the interpretive guys.
I do.
Yeah, we could do that.
Well, you know that we both have that. We just got to get flags on them. You've got a cane. I've got two. Mission accomplished.
I was told the other day that as we're getting better, I walk really well with a cane, that I need to get that as an accessory.
See, there you go, because I've never been told that. I walk with two canes. I've never been told that I walk really well with them, so congratulations to you.
Accessory. How about that?
You're accessorizing.
Yes.
You're completing the outfit.
I'll be one of those people that goes into like antique stores looking for canes just to go with this outfit.
There you go. Christmas shopping. You've got several days left for Dave Cook. We just got part of his want list taken care of on the eve of the Kirk Cousins Bowl. How bad do you want Kirk Cousins and the Falcons to go down tomorrow at U.S. Bank Stadium?
So I don't think Kirk Cousins deserves a lot of negative stuff because he did what he did and we did what we did. But I'd really like to see Flores' defense make him look bad.
Well, and I would too. And part of it is just a simple fact. They're playing the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think I've ever been in a game where I've said, I want the Vikings to lose, because I'm not even the draft tank guy. There are a lot of people that do that. But obviously with a team that is 10-2, you're in a stretch run. You got to get one.
Yep, absolutely right. But, the things that made Cousins really good and the things that made Cousins really tough to watch, I think Flores can take advantage of those things.
Absolutely.
And if there's a pass rush on him, I think that they could feast.
I agree, because as polarizing as Kirk was, and he was, it's going to be interesting because there were Kirk apologists. I was probably one of them. And there were certainly Kirk haters. But do we come together tomorrow and say, okay, everything that all the haters said made him mediocre or worse, even the apologists suddenly want to see tomorrow?
Well, and I think everybody knew, right? I don't think people apologized for his foibles. I think people apologized for the fact he didn't have an all-pro offensive line.
Well,
and two
we
all-pro
also
receivers.
treated him like Christian Ponder, and then you look at the numbers and you're like, well, wait a minute, it's much better than that. It's a little bit PJ Fleck.
It's a lot of it.
PJ Fleck is mediocre or slightly above, but so many people that champion him, and I get it, say, think about what we had. I feel like we did that as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. What are we going to do without him?
When you measure it by wins and losses, there were some people that said, well, wait a minute, we had Case Keenum. We had a berth in the NFC title game. We got Kirk. We never got close to going back.
Yeah,
but it's not that simple.
No, it's not. It's not that simple, and yet it does. One of the things that bothered people was when people would say, "Well, look at the offensive line Kirk played behind." Well, it's because he took 30% of the salary cap. They didn't have enough funds, and it was like he was never taking less than that. Right. So, whatever. He did a really good job for us. He'll go down as a top 5 Vikings quarterback, and. Until somebody's better. Hopefully J.J. McCarthy knocks him out of 5.
Well, how about Sam Darnold, whether it's a one-year wonder or not? Because I wonder what they're going to do financially, and the J.J. McCarthy injury is going to play a role too.
Well, and you forget we have a ringer on the team.
Daniel Jones. For how long?
I think he'll stay for a bit.
I thought maybe you were a huge Brett Rippon fan. I wasn't sure what you were teasing there.
No, I'm a Mullins guy because I want Jameis, since they're the same guy, will throw for 5,000 yards.
Well, I think we just want Jameis. Let's be honest. We just want Jameis for the press conferences or the interviews.
I just always been a Jameis guy.
I know you have. But is there a more quotable guy in the league right now?
Probably not.
I mean, you could ask him.
It's not Deshaun for sure.
I mean, you could. I don't know that I want any of his quotes at all. But
if you're a Browns guy, for sure, Jameis is a better quote.
But with Jameis, I mean, you could simply ask him. It's 10:06 on a Saturday morning, and you could say, Jameis, how's your morning treating you? And you don't know what direction the answer would go, or maybe what direction the answer wouldn't go.
Yeah, it's funny. He's got every talent that you need as a starting quarterback. You hear people say he's a good leader. He's a good guy on the team. except he can't help but throw interceptions. Like that guy he just can't help it. He's got a 5,000-yard arm. He's going to throw touchdowns all over the place, but his touchdown interception ratio, I think, is awfully close to 1-to-1.
Absolutely, but it's amazing that guy, Jameis Winston, doesn't have more endorsements because the things that he will say about your company.
That's probably why.
He will absolutely go to bat with you, and I'm going to make a segue out of that because we will definitely go to bat for our sponsors as well.
Absolutely. Let's start with Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai. Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance. Assisted Living Locators at www.assistedlivinglocators.org/Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your carrier, HVAC authorized dealer. Mount Royal Bottle Shop, the Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road and on Tavern on the Hill, in Two Harbors and in Proctor. Arola Architecture Studio, Hoops Brewing, ABS Auto Solutions, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, and Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing.
We are always continually grateful for their sponsorship, allowing us to do local sports coverage for at least 2 hours every Saturday. Hour number 2, about as local as you can get, at least at the start today.
Yeah, we're looking forward to talking to some friends we haven't had on the phone for a while.
Absolutely. Tony O'Neill, the head coach of the defending champion Duluth Harbor Monsters. He'll start hour 2.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to Tony and just talk football in general and then get into a little bit of Harbor Monsters. Well, we're in recruiting season, and we've just had National Signing Days coming up.
We're almost in tryout season as well.
Yep, with National Signing Day coming up for college, we're going to have the recruiting the recruiting report for the Harbor Monsters.
Now, with open tryouts looming for the Harbor Monsters, and you wearing a Destination Fitness sweatshirt today, which I never realized until I can see it in the reflection, and I have this sweatshirt, that shows how much I didn't realize. The back of it says, "Be an athlete." Will you be trying out for the Duluth Harbor Monsters?
I don't know.
Am I breaking news?
Like, I got a cane.
I got 2. What's your point?
And a
Am I double the athlete you are?
Yeah, and a metal knee.
All right.
I don't know what
so
I
that's
could do.
A no.
Tony could put me someplace. I don't know what I could do. I'd be like, you know what I could be? I could be one of the decoy receivers.
There you go.
I'll be out and they'll have to guard me, right?
I was going to say, with the arena football format, that would be really interesting because how many guys can you use as a decoy?
That's true. That's absolutely. I could be the center who doesn't go out for pass.
There you go. So it is close to open tryouts for the Harbor Monsters. We'll talk about that. And then we've been part of Rails TV during the early goings of the hockey season. We haven't talked to the head honcho of Rails TV in a while.
Yeah, and it's time. Like, we got to bring Ted onto the airwaves. We've been a part of Rails TV almost since the beginning, one way or another. And to be able to talk about the program, talk about sports going on, and talk about a little fundraiser they have coming up.
Absolutely. And then we close the show the only way that we really know how during football season. He's not local, but he might as well be.
Right.
Vincey Glenn, he's never had a shortage of opinions, but he's never had a shortage of opinion on number 8. He's not number 8 anymore, but that's how he refers to Kirk.
Yeah,
this should be interesting.
Yeah, ought to be fun. We'll see a Michael Penix fan, I suspect, to end the show.
Absolutely. So again, I think the polarizing topic always is Kirk Cousins, but what's polarizing to me is I'm just intrigued by what version are we going to get, because there were games, love him or hate him, where he carved defenses up.
Yep.
And then there are games like last week where Minnesota fans are going, that's the guy I don't miss.
Yep, been there, seen that. And it's interesting because we've acknowledged on this show, and I'm sure on Time for Two More, the Vikings have some distinct spots in their defense that are weak. Cousins could take advantage of those if we don't have any pressure. We got to get to him. If we get to him, we're going to get the Cousins from last week. If we don't, he's going to find the center of the defense, where we've been picked apart all year.
I was going to say it won't be Ed Donatel middle open, but there is some middle open to this defense.
Oh, yes, there is.
But at the same time, if we get to him, it shouldn't be that difficult to get to a guy who doesn't move much. And then that there are Kirk haters and maybe even Kirk fans who are saying, it'll be nice to see you fumble on a sack for someone else.
I think that the part we're not taking into account is it's not just Kirk. I think the other Falcons are going to do everything they can to make sure his homecoming is good for them.
I was going to say, you're going to find out quickly
their best game.
How well liked he is in that locker room, because Bijan's good, Drake London is good, Kyle Pitts underused is good. Atlanta's not without weapons. In fact, it scared me to death listening to the mothership this week, the amount of confidence that the Minnesota media moguls have.
Oh, yeah.
Because I never have that, but that's me.
Well, and again, this is it's a little hyperbole to say this is their Super Bowl, but there are going to be guys on that team that want to make it Kirk Super Bowl.
Right.
We're going to get their best effort. We're not going to get a half-backed effort out of Atlanta.
That was very good FCC editing on the part of my co-host Dave Cook. I'm Brian Pruitt, and we are the Northland Sports Page. We're talking a little bit about Vikings-Falcons coming up Sunday. And again, the Vikings need it because they need to be able to enjoy kind of the repercussions of Thursday. Again, whether you were rooting for the Packers or not, which that sentence alone sounds weird, I know a Green Bay win would have been beneficial to the Vikings in terms of the standings, but we can't act like the fact that Green Bay lost isn't also beneficial. But it really, truly only is if you win tomorrow.
Yep, we need to keep the foot on the gas pedal. But here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we all thought they were going to be 9-7, 8-8.
And I don't even know that we thought that.
And I'm being...
Plus, you forgot a game. It's 17 games now.
Well, that game doesn't count.
Okay, fair enough. Which one can we not count? Can we make it the Rams game?
We could make it the Rams game if you choose. But the Vikes are working on house money, right? Keep winning, and it's a fantastic season. It's one of those magical seasons,
right? And on the Atlanta side, the motivation is different because the NFC South is kind of the land of mediocrity,
yep.
And Tampa's in the mix. Carolina is not. New Orleans, we don't think they are either. But Atlanta's trying to fend somebody off or stay in it or both.
Isn't it an interesting division, though? Because, like you said, everybody is kind of in the mosh, including, Carolina's not this year, but you can see Bryce Young might be taking a step or two.
And who would have thought that 4 weeks ago?
Right. And so seeing the Atlanta team and the Tampa Bay team almost the same team. I mean, you've got Mike Evans, you've got Drake London, you've got Baker, you've got Cousins. You've got all kinds of guys that are kind of the same.
Right. Give me Bijan over Rashad White. I will say that, although Rashad White's gotten better.
Absolutely. I mean, there's spot. Give me Vita Vea over anybody on their defensive line.
Look at us morphing this into NFC South radio. That was a bit accidental. But it will be strange to see Kirk in a different uniform in U.S. Bank tomorrow.
With a different number.
So yes, we can't refer to him as number 8, but we'll see if Vince Glenn does that at the end of the show. I believe he's number 18 these days for the Falcons.
I think that's right.
But at the same time, it's not going to be the first time that Minnesota teams have had a former, I won't say legend, but a staple in their franchise come back and play against them. So for the opening topic today, we're going to go twofold, and we're going to hurry because we got about 17 minutes. Who were the toughest to accept watching play somewhere else? And then who are the ones that you couldn't wait to try to beat? And it may or may not be the same guy.
Well, I think it's super interesting because as I was working through the thought exercise, there's a lot of guys who maybe weren't the greatest players ever, but I had an attachment to them.
Right.
And so when you see, with the Vikings, the guy I hated to see on another team was Linval Joseph. Like, how surprising was that when the first guy that came up was having to play against Linval, knowing that he kept his house in Minneapolis, that his kids still go to school here, all the things that you want out of a football player, you got, except you didn't keep him.
All right, so I just said that it may or may not be the same guy for both categories.
Oh, tell me it's not.
But since we started for the Vikings, no, I'm not saying that you and I have the same guy.
Okay, good.
I'm saying that there are two ends to this topic, if you will. One is the toughest to accept. Two is who did you want to beat?
Yep.
And for me, it's the exact same guy. For me, it's Chris Carter on both ends.
Oh.
And he is my favorite Minnesota Viking of all time, which is why it was so difficult to watch him play, 4 games as a Miami Dolphin? I know he didn't start here. I know he was an Eagle. I get that. But by the end, he was a Viking.
Oh, yeah.
And to play for Miami, just to play for Miami, and come to Minnesota on a weird Saturday, December game and tell everybody, don't worry, Gary Anderson can't kick it that far. And Gary nails one from 50 plus to beat them. I'm not one to say bad things about Chris Carter ever. I may have muttered some expletives. Take that at the TV that particular day.
See, for me, the guy that I couldn't wait to beat was Xavier Rhodes because, 2 years before he got moved to, or he went to Indianapolis, he was the guy, right? He might have been the best cornerback in the NFL. And then it's a little like what we saw with the president, right? Where you could see that things were weird. You didn't know what they were, but you could see things weren't right. Well, Rhodes,
if this was a more political show, I'd say, wait a minute, be more specific.
Yes.
Which president? Because there's a lot of that.
Yep, no, but when you see it, right? And you could see that Rhodes was failing.
Yes.
And then when they let him go, he was all, you did this and you did that and you did this. And it was like, you know what? When we get a hold of him, I want to beat him senseless.
I was going to say, I know we're sticking to players, but couldn't we have played Dallas this year?
Yes.
Because all of a sudden what
100%.
Mike Zimmer said, I would have said, yeah, how's that going for you?
Yep, nope. Zim would have been a very good choice.
Are there two coaches named Mike that Vikings fans now go, boy, am I glad you're struggling, than McCarthy and Zimmer together?
No, it's the together part
right,
that's fun too.
Right.
No, it's fun. I have a buddy that lives in Dallas, right? They want to extend McCarthy. I'm like, you keep extending him.
I was going to say,
want.
you know who else wants to extend McCarthy? The Commanders, the Giants, the Eagles. The whole NFC says, Dallas, you go ahead and do that.
You keep him, man. Good luck.
Absolutely. So Vikes checked off. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go to the Wolves. I think the Wolves were really interesting because I think about guys that, I mean, I'm a little obsessed with the guy I want to beat, right?
Right. Well, and basketball players make cameos because I walked into the studio several times today because we've been here basically for an hour and a half already. But I walked into the studio a few minutes before the show and you said, I'm struggling with the Wolves. I can't think of anybody. And I said, what about for 6 guys? And you went, oh, forgot he played here.
Yeah,
that happens with basketball,
right? And so which Wolves when they left it, I couldn't wait to get a shot at. It's Jimmy over and over.
I was going to say because since he's left, you've spent this radio show taking any shots at him you possibly could.
Yes, and the other guy is Wiggins, and the reason I say Wiggins,
and he got hurt last night.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Wiggins is probably besides Garnett the most talented basketball player from front to back, including Ant that we've had. Except he was lazy.
So he was the one that was tough to accept for you playing somewhere else?
Nope, he's the one that when we play them.
So I thought that was Butler.
It is, but
you got too many guys you want to beat. Did you choose violence today?
No, I did.
You did tell a guy in the skywalk, you can't take me today. And now he's doubled over in laughter. Radio's not a visual medium. I probably shouldn't have done that.
No. But, the guy that, I felt bad about being on another team. Levine is the first guy that came to mind. And
yeah.
That's when you came in and you said, for real, you're not saying Ricky?
Yeah.
And I forgot.
As much as you love Ricky Rubio, you were cool watching him with everybody else.
And as soon as you said Ricky, I was like, Tyus Jones. Like, Tyus Jones is, the Apple Valley kid we drafted. And it's kind of sad to see him being elsewhere, being successful because
we're struggling at backup point guard.
Yep.
Right. I'm just glad when I said Ricky, you didn't say, oh, Davis, because it actually segues for me into the guy that I couldn't accept playing somewhere else. The low-hanging fruit is KG. Yes. But for me, it's a different Celtic, and it's personal. I loved Wally Szczerbiak. To watch Wally Szczerbiak, even on my second favorite team, just was wrong.
Yeah, no doubt. And when you talk about favorite guys, right? Watching Googs play elsewhere.
Yeah.
Watching Bobby Jackson play elsewhere, was difficult as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of Wolves, but the problem is their basketball is so transient,
right?
That I'm sure there's guys that I'm missing that were part of a throw-in deal that killed us before the throw-in.
Well, and the guys that I wanted to beat is so petty, and I'm not always above this anyway. So if the shoe fits, but it's guys that were very, for lack of a better phrase, mouthy about playing on championship teams that they were just bit parts of. Players like D'Lo, whose mouth was always going on this franchise, and we thought we really had something with D'Lo. We did. We just didn't have something good.
Stacey King.
And then the other guy was Kevin Love, who certainly has a ring and certainly was good here, but had a weird persona about him when he was here and just treated Minnesota like the bottom of a toilet when he left. Yeah. And I didn't appreciate that.
It was always that way with Love. It always felt like after his first 2 years or so, like he was always doing something to get out.
Right. And why didn't he take up knuckle push-ups in any other city is my question.
Exactly.
I noticed that calisthenic got put away.
Should we bounce to the Wild?
I think we can do that because that one's more difficult because, again, like basketball, players make cameos. I mean, there are a lot of guys that were here and left that were supposed to be good and weren't, so I could pretend I wanted to beat them. Like somebody like Marty Havlat. I joke at the fact that he was with the Wild and supposed to be wonderful, but he wasn't even around enough for me to dislike and want to beat him somewhere else.
Can I say the first guy that came to mind is somebody that never played here but always felt like he was going to play here, and that's Bufflin.
Okay.
It always felt like it was destiny that at some point Bufflin was going to play here until he retired, right? But good Lord, he was I need him on my team because I can't wait to just wreck this guy
somebody.
We play him in. And that's all he did was get in our heads, and that's why we didn't like him.
Right.
But he retired before he ended up here.
So who was hard for you to watch because you liked him here, but he left?
Matt Cullen.
Okay.
I liked watching Cullen here. Again, I'm a little bit of a hockey homer. I get it. But watching Cullen here was cool. And then when he left, it was like we said, we're done with you.
Right.
And he played a few more years of pretty good hockey.
You'll like this because for me it was Nick Leddy. Because the trade was just so
awful.
bad.
Yep.
It was just so bad. And a team that lives on the hashtag one of us type player, you had a good one. You didn't think you needed him. I hate to go Dan Barrero and say we didn't need him, but how many times could you have said that?
But do you remember the day of the trade? I don't know if you do. On the ride home, I was listening to Barrero, and he had Lou Nanny on, and Nanny was apoplectic because he said, Cam Barker can't skate.
Right.
Cam Barker can't skate.
And for as many things during state tournament coverage over recent years that Lou Nanny has gotten wrong, Lou Nanny nailed that one.
He did. It was so funny. Dan actually was like, okay, well, what about the good things? And he was like, nope, this was a terrible trade, blah, 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 blah.
And it turned out to be correct. The guy that I wanted to beat, for me, again, so petty. And again, it's because Minnesota lacks championships. And this guy got one and gets credit for it. But it was, oh, yeah, you're back there. Darcy Kemper, what in the world?
Yeah, Kemper's one. Talbot, for me, is kind of the same thing.
So it's a goalie thing.
Well,
sorry,
no,
Topher Davis, you guys are weird.
The guy, because like I said, Bufflin was make-believe, right? It's Ryan Suter. God, wherever he's at, can we just... I FCC'd that again.
Right.
Can we just...
and see, for me, I'm the opposite. I've stayed a Suter fan, but it was harder because he went to Dallas initially. Now he's just continuing the division tour because he's with the Blues. But I always liked him.
I did not. I always thought that he got a lot more attaboys than he was solid and defensive, and it was like, I'm playing my way regardless of what the rest of you guys do.
Right.
And at the end, it felt like that.
Well, we talked about who really drove coaches out. There was the Suter-Parisi tandem.
Yep.
And it was always, well, Zach Parisi's getting a power play coach or what have you on his own. But Suter was too. Personality-wise, it feels like Suter was, like you said, going rogue whenever he felt like it.
Yep, and nobody's
going to question it.
And he had the ear of the owner, right? And so, yeah, no, Suter's
well, when you're the messiah of your team's blue line, you can do what you want.
Yeah, that's right. So, Twins, let's jump in real quick. So
I thought you left this last on purpose because we do have 7 minutes. And
we do. Okay,
that's
good.
Even going to feel a little quick, but there are so many former Twins, and you and I are so vested in baseball. This will be interesting.
I want to know who you want to beat. Who was a Twin?
There were a lot of them. I wanted to beat Chuck Knobloch because of where he was playing.
He's on that list,
right?
Yep.
I wanted to beat Kyle Gibson because he struggled here so badly.
As a number one pick. Yep.
And we talked about Kirk Cousins for a long time. And we talked, this topic exists because of Kirk. But Kirk had the grimace face. And I don't mean the purple guy from McDonald's. I mean, well, if the shoe fits. But he would grimace when things weren't going great. And that's when you always said, this is going downhill in a hurry. Kyle Gibson had that face when he pitched. To see him get lit up by us, cool with that.
It was always tough because he always had the stuff, right? And it just was never quite right. And then when he got older and he got everything quite right, his stuff wasn't quite as good.
Right.
For me, it was his sidekick in St. Louis. Once Lance Lynn left, I was like, put him on.
I was going to say. And the Twins have had good success against Lance Lynn since he left. And a lot of people have said, couldn't happen to a nicer guy, with layers of sarcasm.
So Scott Erickson was that way. And
I loved him. I didn't mind.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Is he the one that you struggled to watch somewhere else?
Yes. But I've actually got a lot of them.
For me, it's Justin Morneau.
But how about
because he played for the White Sox after a while. When he was in Pittsburgh, I didn't care. When he went to Colorado, won a batting title, great. He was on the White Sox.
The one guy who I felt both, this is the only player for the whole list who I felt fit in both sides, was Carlos Gomez. Because it was hard.
That's a good call because we were supposed to kind of nurture him into a great career.
Yes.
It didn't pan out. He goes to Milwaukee. He's an all-star, and it's what in the world?
Well, and here he was a lovable knucklehead.
Yes.
Right? And
scored a pretty big run.
He scored a huge run. But that was perfect for him, right? Eyes wide open,
well, and I was
going to
say,
miles an hour.
Those two, that's it. Alexi Casilla has one big hit. Carlos Gomez has one big run. This concludes the Carlos Gomez-Alexi Casilla career recap.
And so when he went to Milwaukee, it's like, I don't want to watch you play here. And then when we did the odd play against Milwaukee, it was like, we got to wreck this guy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, think of some of the guys who we had who left. Johan. Hated watching him in another uniform.
See, I guess I go both ways with this because watching them in a different uniform is one thing. Watching them in a different uniform against us, like Kirk will do tomorrow, is different. Because Johan with the Mets, I was cool with that because we didn't really play them on the regular at all.
Bruno.
Yeah.
Tom Bernansky.
Well, again, that's just a horrible trade.
Yeah.
The Cam Barker, Nick Leddy, that's Bruno and her.
Yeah, 100%. John Smiley, but again, he went to the other league. How about this one for one that we're not always going to think about? Wilson Ramos. Because Wilson Ramos would have
because
taken
we
care
didn't
of,
need Matt Capps at the time.
Well, and Wilson Ramos, who turned into an all-star, would have taken care of the Twins catching. I mean, Mauer would have been at first base, and we'd have been like, he's a good defensive first baseman. We do not have a hole at catcher.
I was going to say, the Twins catcher since Joe Mauer, I know Kurt Suzuki was an all-star here, but woof.
Yes.
But think about that sentence for a minute. I know Kurt Suzuki was an all-star here. What?
Yeah, right. Well, Wilson Ramos, you could see he had that talent. Now, again, how many times do we hear people say, don't worry about prospects, trade them for players.
Right.
This is why people get anxious, is when you make that deal like this.
And again, for me, it's just different when they play against you rather than just play elsewhere. Because again, I started to like the Rockies because Morneau won a batting title there. Kadire won a batting title there.
Andres Galarraga won one.
But never was with the Twins. But that's a cool point of note.
You're welcome.
Dante Bichette and Larry Walker were great players too, but never played for the Twins.
Good.
Anywhere else you'd like to go?
Tulo.
Troy Tulowitzki?
Yeah, we could have used him.
He was rumored to at least come to the Twins, never did.
He would have come after his Toronto days when he was cool.
Right, we'll get him now. We'll get him this week for about $12. But the Twins, it's interesting because there's so many different attitudes because, I don't know, Jack Morris won us a World Series, is absolutely a legend. After that year went, I don't want to be here, and he went and played in the World Series with Toronto after that.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you ever have any ill will towards Jack? I don't think I did.
No, because Jack went and put the team on the on the board, right? And so
right, but then said see you later.
Yeah.
What if Sam Darnold gets this team to the NFC title game or beyond, but then financially has to go?
That's what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, I don't know about
I was going to say that
far
first part. I love it
right.
if it is. The script is leaked. If that's the case,
the thing about Morris is his season was good. His last game was the thing of they write novels about, right? But his season was good. It wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't the Cy Young Award winner.
I think he was 18-12 or something like that.
Something like that. And so,
but that was so Jack to win a bunch of games but lose a bunch of games
with a 4 ERA.
Yeah.
Back when 4 ERA was not cool.
Right. Now it's Cy Young contender.
Right. Exactly. But so when he went to Toronto, it was like, okay, well, thank you for coming and home and winning the World Series, and you go ahead and be 16.
Thank you for hosting a TED Talk. Go ahead and go to a different World Series.
Yeah, you go enjoy being 16 and 13 in Toronto.
So I'm going to close with this, and I use the word close on purpose because the Minnesota Twins have been blessed for the most part with really good closers. So much so that the ones that were bad stood out. So there was a big part of me that loved seeing Fernando Rodney get just torched with someone else. Alex Colomé, we should have chosen Column B, get torched
Alex Colomé
for someone else.
The big signing, too.
It's basically relievers that never cut it here.
Frankie.
That when they come out of the bullpen for someone else, Frankie Rodriguez or Francisco Liriano? Which Frankie?
No, Frankie Rodriguez.
All right, fair enough. But I even look at Tyler Duffy, who we debated forever.
Yeah.
You wanted him to close.
As the close, yeah.
And I went, Tyler Duffy's hang him and bang him. When he's hanging curveballs for somebody else, I went, see, it's not just us.
Dave, this is Brian.
Dave, that ball hasn't landed yet. Are you watching? Oh, you're not? He'll catch it next week.
Duffy got crushed again, Dave.
Right. So it's relievers that failed here. When they fail somewhere else, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's the nutshell of this topic because there are folks like Dan Barrero who I love on the radio in general, but he overplays the we didn't need him type stuff. And we've been burnt by that enough. So when you're not burnt, you smile a little bit.
No, I 100% agree with that. It's a little like comeuppance, right? I had a question for you, though, during the week when I was thinking about this. After they're done playing, the things that they do, does it change your point of view? And this is a Matt Burke question. Because when he left, it was, oh my gosh, I can't believe they let Matt Burke go.
Right.
And then he wins a Super Bowl, right? And so you kind of want to beat him. But since he's come home, he's been a figure of some diversion or division.
I was going to say,
right?
he's Mr. Politically Divisive.
Right. Does that change an opinion in a conversation like we're having?
I think in society it does. I think for me it doesn't because I tend to focus on what I want to, which we all have that right.
Yeah.
But for me to pigeonhole it to sports is easy. I think for most people, it's not.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is tough in a situation like that where if you love his politics, you're probably all in. If you hate his politics, he probably doesn't even fit a list like this.
It's all a matter of which version of a player are you going to get? Which version of Kirk are the Vikes going to get tomorrow? The one that frustrated you when he wore our uniform that would really make you smile tomorrow? Or is it the one that too much time for Kirk, and if you give him too much time, he'll carve you up?
4th and 10, he throws a 6-yard out for the loss.
That's maybe what we could see tomorrow. The Vikings are the kings of one-possession games. Maybe Atlanta has the ball. It's 4th and 8, 3-yard completion, game over.
Yeah, that would be the most apropos ending.
Speaking of game over, first segment over. We go to Dave Hoops next. Stick around. We're the Northland Sports Page. We'll be right back. It is a happy season, but which one? Football, basketball, baseball, hockey? We know no off season. We are the Northland Sports Page. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. The holidays are near us, so this song is apropos, but it is the most wonderful time of the year in my eyes for our next guest, Dave Hoops. But again, to call him a guest probably isn't fair. He's one of our great sponsors. We are blessed with several.
We do have a few fantastic sponsors for sure, Brian. We'll start with ABS Auto Solutions, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Assisted Living Locators. You can reach them at www.assistedlivinglocators.org/Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Mount Royal Bottle Shop, the Blackwoods Group, including their locations in Proctor and in Two Harbors, their location on London Road and Tavern on the Hill. Arola Architecture Studio, the OG, Brian.
Yes, the OG, but yes, if you want to be phonetic, that's the OG.
Absolutely. And then our guest, Hoops Brewing, Dave from Hoops Brewing.
Dave Hoops is with us. Again, the most wonderful time of the year is the intro for him this time around. And Dave Cook and I could certainly say that 10 to noon every Saturday is the most wonderful time of the week. But for Hoops Brewing, it's always fun to have him on Saturday, but the big day is Monday. I'm going to let him tell you why. Dave Hoops, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys?
Always doing well, but I'll tell you this, I'm never going to wish a weekend away. I'm just not going to do that. But I'm going to be even better Monday evening because the closest thing that I do to sprinting, judge me accordingly for what that will be getting to your brewery. And you know why, but tell everybody else why.
Well, Monday is December 9th, and every year for the last 7, we've released 1225, our holiday, our Christmas beer on that day, which is a one time of the year, kind of one of our favorite beers to make. It's a cherry ale. Really, it's cherry pie ale. It really is brewed to taste like a pie crust, and then we add a lot of cherries from Door County. And I got to tell you, this year's is really good. They vary year to year based on the harvest. And this one really tastes like the beer that I kind of based it on. My inspiration for this beer this year tastes a lot like that. So I'm excited.
I don't know if my mouth should be watering at 10:35 on most Saturdays, but congratulations, you did it, because that beer has always been good. And if you're championing this year's version to maybe be better than expected, don't threaten me with a good time. But it's always a good time at Hoops Brewing. Before Monday, of course, we've got a good sports day today, a better sports day tomorrow with the Vikes playing. As I told you last week, getting down there for games is an experience of itself. I love it.
Well, it is really great. And, you know, I'm riding a really great streak where, unlike earlier in the show when you guys mentioned that everybody picked the Vikings not to have any wins, I picked them to have 13.
That's true.
And I'm sticking. Well, of course it's true, but I'm not taking a lot of credit because I always pick them to win. But I'm a 100% believer. And this 5-game winning streak, I don't care how ugly it was. Win's a win. Kansas City wins ugly every week. So let's keep it up. I'm excited for tomorrow.
I can't agree more with that because style points truly don't matter. I get what people will say that, when the competition increases, can the Vikings' level of play increase? We'll see, but their record is what it is. This is fun so far, Dave Cook.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think I really do need to tip a hat to Dave and his prognostication for the Vikings.
Because I was going to say, the positivity is wonderful.
I thought he was nuts. And so far, he's been correct. And of course, we got a Sam Darnold nobody's ever seen before, which, goes a long way.
I think that's a great point because I'm wondering if KOC just truly is that quarterback whisperer because we are getting a Sam Darnold that's never been seen before. I wonder if it's coming as a surprise even to Sam Darnold or if he just needed somebody to believe in him. And Dave Hoops, you're the guy that believes in Minnesota sports better than most, but KOC seems to truly believe in Sam Darnold as well.
As do I, honestly. Loved him in college and really, thought he was one of those quarterbacks that got thrown on the junk heap. I had really no doubt that he would be a strong quarterback here. Yeah, KOC's a big part of it. The team that's around him is a huge part of it. And, everybody likes to win. Plus, he has the mental acumen to play at this level. He just hasn't been ever given the reins. he's been the last 3 games he's been just unbelievable. 900 yards, roughly, no interceptions, all wins. Whereas the guy on the real junk heap guy is got 6 interceptions the last 3 weeks, and I'm a Kirk fan. I'm a Kirk fan because he allowed us to let him leave by asking for the world. We won on that deal. Now tomorrow, hopefully, we can just not rub it in, just win.
I was going to say, you heard us talking in the first segment about, which version of Kirk are you going to get? The guy who's accurate and precise and can zip teams up and down the field, or the guy that crumbles in big moments, crumbles when the pocket does? And quite frankly, I know the mothership talked about this week too, doesn't look fully healed from an injury a season ago. What are you thinking Kirk is going to show tomorrow?
Well, I really hope that Penix plays because I really like him. He's like my 4th favorite quarterback in this year's draft. And just to rub it in a little bit, I think he'll be fine, and I think he's going to probably play pretty well because he has to. And I hope the fans give him just a little bit of love. I always supported him when he was here. I just want him to lose, and if he can continue to digress a little bit. I think Penix is the future. This whole draft class, I'm getting off topic here, but I'm excited about these young quarterbacks.
For good reason. Hopefully the Vikings have one of those as well with J.J. McCarthy, because we'll see if the Sam Darnold great season is just that, just one. But going to the crowd reception, I do think that most of the fans are going to feel the way you do. I think during introductions, during pregame, what have you, Kirk is going to get a warm, deserved reception. When we're between the lines and the game is going, he's going to get the reception that every opposing quarterback probably gets.
Yeah, no doubt. But I want to talk about 2 things there. I agree with you that the Achilles injury, I don't think he's come all the way back from, but it's also one of the hardest injuries in sports to come back from.
Well, and who does in their upper 30s as well?
Right, and that was going to be my other point.
Look at Aaron Rodgers at 40+. He doesn't look the same either.
We talk about helping guide quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy was going to sit this year regardless. J.J. McCarthy's 21 years old. Michael Penix is 25. Michael Penix is at that maturity level. It's why there were very few people that thought he was going to be drafted in the top half of the first round because of his age, right? I mean, his first contract, he'll be 30 when his first contract is done. And if you're Atlanta, you need to strike while the iron's hot with him. If you hold him until he's 27, well, now, hold on a second. Why did you draft him 6th overall?
I don't think that's going to have to become a concern because Kirk isn't playing badly. Now, last week he certainly did, but I think he's giving you enough question marks that it's paving the way for Michael Penix. The question is, Sam Darnold ends up where next season? Question could be the same for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and that's a spot where Cousins is more likely to be a stopgap in New York than Darnold is. I heard somebody say, he'll go back with the Giants. I don't think there's a chance in blue blazes that Sam Darnold ends up back in New York.
With the Jets, you mean?
Yes, or either team.
Or back in New York, but with the Giants this time.
Right. I think that there's a chance he's a quarterback in Pittsburgh, but I don't think that the New York market would just eat him alive, both positive and negative. I could see, though, Cousins going, making some good money and being the quarterback of the Giants.
Kirk in New York, that would be interesting. Obviously, lots of talk of Kirk coming back to Minneapolis tomorrow. Dave Hoops, I don't know how much of our opening segment you heard, but if you did, I'm wondering if you have any takes on this. We talked about players that played for Minnesota that eventually played somewhere else that was tough for you to accept, but then at the same time, also guys that left here that you said, fine, I can't wait to beat you. Do you have anybody for any of the teams that serve as an example for that?
No, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry, I was in the middle of something, but I don't know about guys I wanted to fail. I mean, I think of Allen, Jared. I think of maybe McDaniel.
Soon to be Hall of Famer, Jared Allen?
Yeah, well, maybe. I just kind of like these guys. I don't know, Cuddy, maybe? Didn't he go to the Rockies and really do well?
He did. He won a batting title. You don't have to tell me that twice.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm not super prepared for that, but I'm sure that you guys killed it. Who were your favorites?
Well, favorites were tough because seeing Justin Morneau in a White Sox uniform was difficult for me. That was one of the more difficult ones. We didn't bring up Adrian at all. I don't know about you, Dave Cook, but I didn't care the number of uniforms after Minnesota that he wore.
The first one was rough, but I mean, how many is he retired yet? Like, I don't know if he's retired
officially.
Yet.
I don't know if the papers were filed.
And so,
for some reason, I didn't struggle. I didn't love the trade. Obviously, Napoleon Harris wasn't anything, but Randy Moss playing somewhere else didn't really grind my gears, so to speak. Dave Hoops, I really went after my favorite Viking. Chris Carter as a Dolphin was a joke.
Oh, I didn't even. What? How long did that last?
I think it was 4
At the
games. Yeah, I think it was 4 games,
Oh,
and
wow.
one was against Minnesota, and they lost to us, and I loved it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I would have had to look that up. I didn't even know that CC played there. I'm sorry. I'm deficient.
I wonder if people who were invested in the Vikings in the early 70s would have said Alan Page.
As a Bear?
Yeah.
That would have been tough.
I wonder, because it was such a weird vibe with him and Grant, they argued and
Right.
stuff because he was the guy with his own mind. And he played at 230 pounds at defensive tackle.
Well, and here's the question in regards to that, because this topic is because of Kirk being here tomorrow, and Minnesota doesn't have the easy standout one, because if we look at our rivals to the east, they had to watch Brett Favre succeed for us.
Yeah.
That still stings, I'm sure.
Ryan.
Is Alan Page as a Bear the closest thing we have to that? Because I
Carl
can't,
Eller?
but I
Maybe, how
can't
about
think of
that?
somebody carrying a rival to success like that. And now I'm not saying Alan Page did that with the Bears, but you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking of one of your best players
Yep.
going to one of the teams that you hate the most. And I guess as I say this, am I missing something totally obvious?
Well, rivalry is the issue. Moss in New England was really hard because.
But
Moss,
there's no rivalry between the
that's what I'm
Pats and the
saying.
Vikes.
It's not a rivalry game.
And I think that's part of the issue, because you look at Minnesota sports rivals. The Vikes have the Packers. The Twins have who? The Wild have who? The Timberwolves have who? The Lynx have who? Out of our 5 majors, if you will, one of them has a distinguished rivalry, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the Wild and the Wolves both really trying hard to make it Denver. But, yeah, that's a really good question. I can't think of a Minnesota player who has gone on to another
Success
team
with a rival.
Right.
Right.
With any of the 4 teams.
Because like I said, Justin Morneau wore a White Sox uniform, but depending upon the era, were the White Sox truly the rival or not?
Marcus Davenport's playing for.
But the fact that he played
Playing, right,
is a
that's a
victory
big
of
deal.
itself for Marcus Davenport.
Somebody's screaming at the radio at somebody that I'm not even thinking about.
Well, there you go. We'll put that.
Nobby? What about Nobby?
But
Didn't he
Nobby,
go to the World Series?
well, he did. But again, the Twins can say that the Yankees are a rival. The Yankees would say the Twins are the proverbial bug on the windshield. They were the playoff
Right.
bye for the Yankees for how many years?
Tommy
True.
in Chicago with the White Sox was tough.
But wasn't he there before us, or was it after?
It was after us, I think.
Okay, I'd have to Google that. We're coming up with great questions on the fly on-air production meeting. Dave Cook, let's go to your great question.
All right, I was listening to a podcast this week, and a question. There was a whole long 2-hour podcast. I just want to ask you guys what you think about this. You guys, is Bigfoot real? I mean, is there a chance that Bigfoot's real?
Ha!
You didn't think
Dave,
that
that's
was
a great,
coming
great
up?
question. No, I absolutely love it. So if anybody out there has kids that's listening, I've got a little bit of a Christmas thing. So I went to the new Christmas movie, the red one it's called.
Yes, it's
and,
awesome.
You know, yeah, it totally is awesome.
Yep.
Way to go, Dave. And when you mentioned that, I imagine you got that from the movie maybe, but the way the movie did it with the mythical creatures oversight, yeah, I've always been a believer in all this stuff. Why not? So sure, I imagine there's some sort of Bigfoot or some kind of creature that would qualify.
All right, I'm going to go opposite end of the spectrum, but I have the worst imagination. So when it comes to believing in something that's not tangible or not necessarily in touch with reality, I struggle. I think the best way that I actually do that, though, is I've seen Wicked twice now already, and that requires some imagination, certainly. But normally with my cinematic choices,
You and Pitt.
I will stare at previews and go, can't happen, won't watch it.
Oh, that's why you're not a Marvel guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some of my worst takes as a person to most of society. Not a Marvel guy, not a Star Wars guy, not a Star Trek guy. Don't care. Loved superheroes when I was 9. I'm 45. Not happening still.
The interesting thing, Dave, is this podcast. It was talking about how these mythical characters. If you think about, there's a 9-foot human being at one point in the last 100 years. Why couldn't there be a one-off of something? Like if it's a Kodiak bear, why couldn't you have one that had better upright mobility, and it just got shocked by that?
Right. Meanwhile, I'm the guy that somebody says, is Bigfoot real? And I go, sure. Didn't you see Shaq's shoe size?
All right. So, second non-sports related question. All right. So I went to Chick-fil-A this week,
Me too.
And had their.
You want to know the sad part?
Fries.
There are people that probably heard that just shut this show off right now.
Yeah.
Because we went. How dare we?
Yeah, they have pretty good waffle fries. I want to know, gentlemen, of the fast food restaurants, who has the best French fries?
Ooh, Dave Hoops, go first.
Well, that's easy. Well, thanks for letting me go first. I can't say that I really don't know that I've had them in 5 years or more, but Mickey D's was always, crunchy, salty, just hot and piping. I always thought they were really, really good, but I haven't had them recently. So
I would agree. McDonald's traditionally wins, emphasis on tradition, but on the off chance that you're going off the beaten path, the nacho fries from whichever taco joint has those are good. The cheddar fries or the curly fries from Hardee's were good back in the day too.
The curly fries from,
but just straight up fries, give me McDonald's all day in the fast food world.
It's McDonald's
seasoned curly fries.
Yes.
Or Five Guys are pretty good. Like you have to make sure that they're done. Like they tend to take them out a little early. But Five Guys fries are pretty good if they're done.
All right, how many questions you got left? Because we are late for buy or sell. Go ahead with one more.
One more question.
All right.
I heard on the television last night, Anthony Edwards went to the rack, and they said that Anthony Edwards could play running back in the NFL. If Anthony Edwards decided he wanted to play running back in the NFL, how long would it take for him to get there? Like I was thinking, he's got the right size, but
it should only take 10 minutes because Target Center and US Bank Stadium are not that far apart. Nice. Go ahead, Dave Hoops.
It would take as long as it took for him to get his jersey on and be on the practice squad and be done by the end of the day that day. It's ridiculous conversations. The thing about him racing, what's his face too, or whoever was, the U.S. Olympic guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not into that. I think they're silly arguments, but sorry, I don't want to down your question.
No, that's a question. That's an answer.
I was going to say that's an answer that I'll just stick with because I'm going to say, I think we're done with the multi-sport athletes. I think Bo and Dion, they set the standard, and that'll remain the standard. That'll be it for a while.
Until next spring.
But Anthony Edwards, maybe he gives it a shot. We've had different people from different walks of life give other things a shot and it hasn't panned out really well. I guess in Minnesota, the most recent would be Brock Lesnar if you truly love the wrestling world.
And not professional wrestling. He was an NCAA champion,
right,
and he was an MMA champion, and he went to play defensive line with the Vikings and just got smoked.
But in the world of sports now, what Anthony Edwards should truly do is go ahead and go back to college and play football instead. You can make just as much money right now.
Exactly correct.
But speaking of money, I'm going to be spending plenty at Hoops Brewing over the next few days. I'm going tomorrow to watch the Vikes, and I've already said I'm going Monday. Monday is in honor of the cherry release. Dave Hoops, get me through the weekend. Give me the other reasons to come to the brewery.
I'll do that really super quick. Our frequent contributor, Craig from San Francisco, just reminded me that In-N-Out Burgers have the best fries.
There you go.
Is probably true, but we don't have them here. Sorry. So this weekend, today it's the Makers Market. It's also the Christmas Village down in Bayfront. So come on down. There's great shopping, nice holiday stuff. And then we've got football championships all day long, as you guys know. We didn't talk about it. Great games. And then the Wild tonight. And then, yes, Monday, cherry release. Brian, I hope to see you there.
You will.
And this year's batch is it is really great, and it is a homage to New Glarus's Belgian Red. I'll just say that out loud. And the first time I made it, the owner helped me a little bit 25 years ago. So this year is really does it justice. So come and try it. And happy holidays to everybody with that release.
Happy holidays to you as well. You mentioned the football championships. Minnesota is involved. Don't forget Bemidji State and Mankato, Beavers and Mavs. That'll be a good one. I think that's on ESPN Plus today. You guys got everything, though. Dave Hoops, we appreciate you. We'll do it again next week.
Have a good day, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave. You too.
You as well. That's our guy, Dave Hoops. We're going to buy everything he sells. We're going to play buy or sell next with the Northland Sports Page. Stick around. We know a good buy when we see one. Northland Sports Page, Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. Hour number 2 is just around the corner. But we play buy or sell to end hour 1. That song Sold by John Michael Montgomery, one of the quickest choruses you're ever going to hear. Dave Cook, you're going to do the sponsors just as fast?
I just think what was fantastic is you said goodbye, and that's what we talked about the whole first part of the show.
Right.
All right, yeah, let's start with the gentleman we just spoke to, Hoops Brewing. You can get cherry ale on Monday. ABS Auto Solutions, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Toller Hyundai, and Kohler Toyota. Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance. Assisted Living Locators. You can reach him at www.assistedlivinglocators.org/Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your carrier, HVAC authorized dealer. Mount Royal Bottle Shop. The Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road, Tavern on the Hill, in Two Harbors, in Proctor, and the OG Arola Architecture Studio.
That was well done. Your regular John Michael Montgomery. That's Dave Cook with our sponsors. Time to play buy or sell. Here's how it works. I'm going to give a statement for each of the 4 major sports leagues, MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL. Dave agrees with said statement. He's going to say buy. He's going to tell me why. Dave disagrees with said statement. He's going to say sell and tell me why. Oh, by the way, I'll sprinkle in my opinions as well. Dave Cook, how would you like to start today?
You know which one we're starting with because I started talking about it. You said, stop. We might be talking about that later. Brian, we're going to start with the National Basketball Association.
All right, so you asked me this question 4 times this morning, and you're right, I did cut you off. It's not going to be phrased as a question. It's going to be phrased as a statement this time. The Minnesota Timberwolves have won 4 in a row, and to be honest, look good doing it. Buy or sell, the Minnesota Timberwolves have turned a corner.
I'm going to buy tentatively because of last night's game, because as the scoring happened, if you look at the box scores, that's how it needs to look for them to win. Like Julius Randle can't score 30. If he scores 21, we're in a pretty good spot. You know, if Ant's got 30, that's his job. You know, Rudy's at 17 and 11. They all kind of filled their spots as far as hierarchy, right? Dante was the only one that I wanted to see more of, but his entire box line was pretty good. His scoring output wasn't great, but I believe he had 6 assists and like five boards or the reverse, you know, something on that order. I think that if they can play lockdown defense, they're already a top echelon. And if their players rank themselves as far as priority and scoring, it's a pretty good basketball team.
All right. So you buy tentatively.
I do because it's only been a couple games in a row.
Exactly. And that's the reason why I'm going to sell tentatively. Because you can see it. To use a Timberwolves affiliated statement, I'll go KG on the bit and go, we're coming, because we are. But at the same time, I don't know if the Timberwolves have turned a corner as much as the schedule did it for them. Because this win streak, we've talked about everybody they've played, and I do think this is an overrated concept in pro sports, but everybody they've played and beaten during this win streak has essentially been, I know at least 3 out of the 4 are absolutely true. I don't know if all of them are, but they've essentially been on the back end of a back-to-back. And for some reason, the NBA treats that like it's asking for a vital organ.
Right.
If you have to play back-to-backs, you just can't do it. Now, mind you, the closest thing to competitive basketball I ever played were Thursday nights in an elementary school gym. So I don't understand what it takes where back-to-backs are so difficult. But the Timberwolves are a talented basketball team, and I do think this team will turn the proverbial corner. Have they right now? Boy, I don't know.
It might be at the beginning of the corner.
Right. Might be at least turn signaling.
Yeah.
How about that?
Right. They got the light
They
on.
might the old dudes with the blinker on for too long.
The team that got ripped by Portland twice
is hopefully gone.
Yeah, that's the hope. The Toronto disaster that happened when Ant went off on them, you know, hopefully that's what helped turn the corner.
Right. The inability to stop anybody seems to be fading. I mean, the final score is they've been allowing 85 points instead of 105.
Yep. And the thing about Golden State is they're so old, and I don't mean that in a horrible way, but a back-to-back for them probably is more difficult.
It's a different theory with that roster. But the other part that I wanted to say real quick about the Timberwolves with the turning the corner piece is I got home from calling a hockey game last night, got to watch the second half of Golden State. There are still stretches where they are so fundamentally flawed and they have more turnovers than most breakfast restaurants.
Yeah, and you know, with Wiggins going out and then you run Draymond out there enough, you got some black holes.
But I'm not talking about Golden State being fundamentally flawed. It was us.
Yeah,
it was us.
Yeah, we're still, remember our leader is 23. Yes. We always have to come back to that. Is our leader still just learning how to do that?
So they're coming, but let me revisit this topic at the first of the year.
All right, so let's go to baseball because I'm really interested in hearing what this question is.
What the world can we talk about at this point in the season? So the Minnesota Twins continue to make coaching staff changes. Buy or sell that the integral parts of a coaching staff, meaning besides the manager, really can make that much of an impact.
So I'm going to say sell with a few exceptions. So it's like if you're buying a Mustang and like, you know, the entry-level Mustangs are just, no, not really. But if somebody offers you, you know, a dark horse, you buy it, right?
Right.
So I'm going to say that it's moving the deck chairs on the Titanic, right?
It is.
Except Wes Johnson. When Wes Johnson left, their pitching staff went from, oh my gosh, we're coming, to...
So you're not a Pete Mackey guy?
Well, Wes Johnson was doing special things. Pete Mackey might be fine, but we asked if it made a difference.
Right.
And Wes Johnson made a difference. But in general, nah. In general, no.
Right. I'm going to sell too, and it's unique to baseball because you look at football and how many times have we talked about our defensive coordinator being the difference in this team.
Or McCardell, or pick your coach.
Right. Keenan McCardell with the wide receivers.
Guy. What's his name?
Josh McCown.
Yes.
Who is more known for destroying the hearts of Vikings fans while in Arizona. But yeah, you look at the depth of knowledge of a coaching staff in some other sports. You look at the NBA benches, talked about watching Wolves and Warriors last night. You look at who the assistants are and you recognize all of them because they're all dynamite players in the 80s or 90s now.
Yeah.
So you know that they're making an impact. How many times did we say Kevin McHale doing a big man camp? Well, not being a coach was a big deal. Baseball, I'm sure there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but I don't think it's effective enough. Now, I get why they're doing it because they want to improve on the debacle that was the finish of this past season. But you look at when they changed their training staff, and the same guys had the same injury problems. So that wasn't it. Now, the strikeouts need to be cut down. Apologies to Mr. Popkins for not having a job anymore, but I don't know what kind of difference this will make. I'm not the guy that says Rocco, Falvey, etc., they've all got to go. I don't believe that. But these changes might be a Band-Aid over a bullet wound.
Yeah, the other guy who's probably more important than we ever give him credit for is the bench coach.
Right. You know who we need to talk to is Joe Vavra on this again.
Yeah,
and just say, what do you do day to day?
Well, because you listen to some of it, and it sounds like, we've talked about KOC has like a quality control coach right there that monitors timeouts and things like that. It almost sounds like the bench coach is that guy who, if he sees something, he leans into the manager and says, all right, this guy, blah, 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 blah. I've seen this 5 or 6 times, right?
Well, the argument is Rocco has that too, but it's also known as analytics.
Well, but
the spreadsheet says, hey, go get him now.
The guy they got is, has never been super successful as a manager. And so you wonder, when Kevin Cash was here,
you're not a Jace Tingler guy either.
I don't know enough.
I think it's one of the greatest names in sports.
Yeah, I don't know enough about him. It's one of those where you'd like to have a veteran manager who is just kind of done with being a manager. You'd love to have that guy sitting next to Rocco.
Right. Jace Tingler sounds like the heir apparent to Ron Jeremy, but I digress. 2 down, 2 to go.
All right, so let's go. Let's do the NHL and finish with football.
All right, so the NHL, the Minnesota Wild, you and I just finished this discussion before the show in an easy way. We just said they're stupid good right now. I mean, this is such a hot team. But the injury bug is just continuing to bite this club as well, which is making it even more fascinating that they're this good. John Hines went on record and said, and I swear he's not John Carlson, but he could be, because he said, if you can defend and goaltend well enough in this league, you can win and overcome anything. Buy or sell, the Wild have enough of those qualities to keep doing this.
Goaltending is so fickle. I would tell you that on paper, yeah, they've got their defense is a solid 6. The new guy from Columbus, if they work with him, he can fit in there someplace. Their defense in Iowa isn't fantastic, so their top guys are in the. But you look at their forwards, and they did a really interesting thing. And I'm not always in fact, I'm very seldom in favor of this.
But they've got forwards who defend as well,
and veterans.
Yeah.
And that's,
all the contracts we disagreed with now are playing the role that they must have envisioned.
Yeah. Anyway, well, except one, but he's got a golden reason for not being healthy.
I don't think it's golden; it's probably purple and blue. But go ahead.
Probably is. But the injury part with them winning is the part that in the back of my head says, maybe this is sustainable because they're winning regardless, and that's a big deal because now you've got guys believing they can win. And when players come back in, they're just going to make things better. When Brodin is back, they're just going to make things better.
Right. I'm going to buy partly just to speed this up because you covered it so much. But at the same time, it's the commitment to this style of play. And I think the trade reemphasizes the commitment. You know more about the gentleman they acquired. I know it's a guy who's been successful basically everywhere but the pros, but he's still super young. The hope is Columbus gave up on him and we're going to, reap what they sow.
And he has one fatal flaw that the Wild think they can help with, and that's skating. And if they can get him to an average skater, the rest of the stuff he does, right? But he doesn't have NHL feet. And so they need to make that happen, and they have a skating coach who can do that.
All right, so we are wrapping it up with the NFL. We mentioned Adrian Peterson because he played for a number of teams after the Vikings.
Don't ask me if he's retired. I don't know.
Right, we don't know if the papers are on file or not. But my belief is that he is the last non-quarterback to win the MVP. Buy or sell that specifically maybe with Saquon Barkley in the season he's having, that the non-quarterback wins an MVP this year as well.
I'm going to sell only because of history. You know, you have to be so much better than the best quarterback, and I don't think he's that much better than what Josh Allen's been doing with less talent around him, right? Saquon is fortunate that he has wide receivers that demand attention. He's got a quarterback that can run. He's not the center point of that offense, right? Who's Josh Allen playing with again? What are his wide receivers' names? Can you remember, is he still got Riddick Moss or whoever is his running back? I know he has James Cook and then crickets. Like Josh Allen is
he's got the Davis rookie.
Yeah, right. He's got Ray Davis.
Yes.
His wide receivers, the new guy has been hurt most of the year. He's running out third string receivers that if we were Buffalo fans, we'd be like, why can't we get wide receivers here?
I know.
He's the MVP. He just is.
He should be, but I'm going to buy just to be different. I think Saquon is going to get it because Philadelphia has always been good, and they seem to be approaching next level good. But you kind of wrecked the way I was going to question it because I was going to say, who's the quarterback that stands out enough? Lamar is excellent, but Baltimore keeps tripping over themselves. And Lamar's not that much different than Jalen Hurts in the sense that, oh, by the way, you've got a tremendous running back that you're not used to having either. But then you put Josh Allen out there and you go, oh, yeah, he probably should be in the MVP conversation. I think it's one of those two. So you may have just talked me out of it, that if it comes down to those two, we know the way people are going to vote.
Here's my question. The HBO special, the offseason of the Giants, where the general manager said, we don't need him. How much does that weigh into this? Because so many people have watched the cable shows or the streaming shows. How much does the inconsiderateness of the Giants weigh into the fact, oh, yeah, well, look what they let go?
Well, I don't think it does because what's he supposed to say? I think that GM has egg all over his face and he can't say, you're right, boy, did I bleep up this season.
Hashtag unemployed.
Right. Think of a few years back. The Giants were up and coming because of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. The Vikings have one, the Eagles have the other. The Harbor Monsters don't have either one, but they're looking for more players. Hour number 2 begins with Tony O'Neill. We'll be right back.